Hello everyone, I'm Katie, K8LQR, and this is my little sister Elise, Kilo Echo 8 Tango Yankee uniform. I got licensed through my school club a couple years ago, and I'm currently the president of it, and she got licensed with help from the school club a few years ago as well.
Some of the things I wanted to do in amateur radio with my club were things like kit building and fox hunts because they were a great thing you could do with your friends and other people in the club. And there was a competitive element, and it was always super fun to work with your friends.
Yeah, fox hunts are one of the things that if you talk to a school club, you're probably going to bring up. Like Bree mentioned, hers is a 4-H club, but fox hunts are always one of the things that the kids love to do.
Fox hunts are a great thing to do with clubs because you can work in teams or by yourself, and it's sort of competitive, but you get to work together and you make connections and you become friends with all the people in your club and you get to know each other really, really well. And the club advisors are always there to help you if you need anything.
It's always entertaining. Our club has one of the little tiny transmitters, and the first time that we went to have a fox hunt, we told the kids, it looks kind of like a film canister, and then quickly realized that none of them knew what a film canister looked like. So, I mean, now I guess we can all say that we know what a film canister looks like, so beneficial in multiple ways.
Another great thing to do in amateur radio is going to local hamfests because you get to meet new people and youth and supporters around you who you can make connections with because they're around you. And if you go to local hamfests, you get to meet them and make connections, and it's always super fun to see them.
In the first picture on this slide, Elise and I are kind of handing out flyers for a youth net that I was pretty active with. And then in the second picture, Elise had actually won a prize there was a prize drawing specifically for youth. And so she actually won an arrow antenna through that, which was pretty cool.
Getting licensed was super fun because my club was always there to help me. They recommended an app ham study, and I used that to study. And when I went to take the test, they were all super supportive and said, "You'll do fine in your pass." And then I did, so it was super great. Bigger ham fests like Hamvention are also great places to meet people who live farther away from you. With Yacht, I talked to people who lived in different states, and I never got to meet them in person. And we went to Hamvention, and at the Yacht Pizza Party, I met all these people I'd talked to on Echolink, and I finally got to meet them in person.
Yeah, Yacht is one of the things that I think all of the presenters thus far have mentioned. It's very, very beneficial, and it's a great way to meet other youngsters around the world. In some of the other pictures, you can see Elise with Ruth KM4LAO, who was also one of Carol's presenters a few years ago. I think that was a really inspiring experience for Elise to get to meet her and see that there are other young YLs in the hobby. And then in the other picture, you can see Elise and I with Ray Novak, and he's been a very, very generous supporter of the club thus far.
Hamvention is also a great place to meet people who support youth like Phil and Bob. They inspired me to do big things with amateur radio, and they were always supportive the whole way. Getting on the air is also really fun with school clubs and without, because all the stuff you learn from the Elmers and advisors, you can put that into real life. And a great way to put that into action is at like field day and school club roundups. Field days with our school club were really fun because we went and set up somewhere and we stayed up super late, and you got to be with your friends and make contacts. And while you were doing it, you were working together and trying to see, and you talked to all these new places, and it's just so much fun.
It's always easy when you have a school club to get kids to come to field day, especially if they're like the middle school ages, because you can pretty much just pitch it with the, well, we're pulling an all-nighter, so you can come and hang out all night. So that's one of the things that really gets kids interested.
School club roundups are also a great time to make contacts with your friends because with your clubs, you always have so much support, and the Elmers from your club are there to help you and teach the older students. And then those students will teach you, and all around, it's a great way to be because you just have so much support on every side. They're also great because While you're learning that from the older kids, you get to apply that knowledge and teach the younger club members as well. And it's so much fun to see them get their first contact and compare it to when you get your first contact and see it just brings so much joy to them.
One of the big things that our club tries to do with school club roundups is keep the adults out of the operating setups. Sometimes it's a little bit challenging. They would really like to help and assist in as many ways as possible, but we really try to make sure that the kids are doing all of the operating, even if they're making little mistakes, because the learning opportunities are a lot more frequent if the kids are operating and making those mistakes themselves. In the first picture, you can kind of see I'm helping Elise through a contact and she's helping one of the younger members. And then in the second picture, Elise was making her first HF contact a few years before the first picture happened. So it's kind of a full circle moment when the kid that you Elmered into making their first contact is Elmering other kids.
For those school club roundups and field days, we had to set up a borrowed G5 RV before we got our new station. And with the new tower and antenna, it's a big improvement.
Yeah, so our club kind of started in about 2019, and for the next couple of years, we had ended up, for every school club roundup or field day, borrowing a G5 RV and some sort of radio setup from a local club or a local business, and setting it up for a week at a time, twice a year, and for field day. So it's a lot of work, and it was not in any way permanent. With the new station that we've kind of been building over the past year, everything's a lot more permanent, so we can get on the air a lot more frequently.
When we were preparing to build the club station, we got a bunch of boxes and rolls of coax, and I was super surprised afterwards how we went from that stage to having a dream station.
Yeah, so since we've been a club for a while, we kind of realized maybe it's time to get a permanent station at the school, and obviously working with a school, there's a lot of hoops to jump through in getting a permanent station. You have to get it approved by the school board, administrators, and everything. So we went through all of those hoops, got that approved. I mean, it took a couple years, but we got there. And we started reaching out. One of the local businesses near us had already donated an ICOM 7300, which we had been using for school club roundups and field day and everything. And then we reached out to DX Engineering and we're like, we're going to place this order. This is pretty much everything we need for the school club. And last year we had a Zoom meeting with them over the summer. Some of the reps from DX Engineering, Scott Jones and Tim, and they were pretty much like, well, we've decided that we'd like to donate all of this to you. So that was incredibly helpful and very, very generous. Pretty much made the club station possible. It's better than we could have imagined.
While we were building the club station, it was hands-on for the whole club. We got to build the framework for the antenna's concrete base, we got to watch them put coax to our radios, and we got to go up in the bucket truck and look at the antennas. It was so much fun.
The whole process of putting the station together kind of happened over the summer last year before school started. And some of my friends were there for band camp, and one of them was like, there's guys in the ceilings with wires. She texted me, it's you, isn't it? You're the cause of this. I was like, yeah. You'll like it in the end, though. She's like, of course it was you. But the whole thing was, as Elise said, very hands-on. The club members were helping every step of the way, so we know how everything works, which is really valuable, because if something were to go wrong with the station, we need to know how to fix it.
While we were building the station, we got help from Scott Dunn and his crew, and we got to set up our 11-element Yagi and put that on the antenna. And like I said, we got to go up in the bucket truck and get some cool photos for this presentation. And our antenna was so cool, even from the top.
Yeah, so she mentioned Scott Dunn. He's the owner of a local business, RAA Data, and he came out with a team, and for completely free, they volunteered all of their time. They came out and helped set up the antenna, the tower, all of that stuff.
Our club station now is much improved. We have an ICOM 7300 from the Graft Electric, and now we have an ICOM 9700 from Ray and DX Engineering, our 11-element Yagi, and a rotor on our tower.
Yeah, so at one point I had messaged Ray, I was like, well, our club advisor wants to get this radio, but I think that it would be really good to keep the station all ICOM so that we can have a little bit of ease with switching radios back and forth. I was like, so what's the ICOM equivalent of this radio? And he was like, well, It'd probably be the 9700, and I think we may be able to find one in my trunk. So that kind of helped us out a lot, and we're very, very grateful for that.
Now with our new improvements to our station, and it's permanent, so we get on the air at our station almost every club meeting, and it's so much fun because the kids are like, "Wow, we get to get on the air all the time now instead of just 1 week," and we're like, "Yeah, it's just so much better."
Yes, it's really crazy to see the strides. The first year I was in the club, we had a tiny VHF radio, no HF setup whatsoever. And at this point, we have the permanent HF setup. So sometimes I'll go in during my lunch and just do CW for half an hour. But it's really nice to have that there so that we can get on the air, because that's really what gets kids interested.